Last with your hosts, Jack, Matt, and Miles.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to Always Strikes Last.
The Age of Sigmar podcast with us.
For people that strike last.
Yeah. And have the last word.
Yes.
I almost had it.
Right. As always, I'm Miles, and I'm hosting this podcast with Matt and Jack.
Hello.
Hello.
So how y'all been? What we getting up to these days? We got a lot to talk about in such a short span of time.
I know. It's like there's never enough podcast time in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jack, you are playing in a campaign, is that right?
Indeed. Doing a little Path to Glory. Hanging up my tournament spurs for a brief period of time to enjoy the more narrative and flavorful side of things, which
Sounds
has been kind of a fun time. Yeah.
It's like a lot of fun.
It is, but it's also weird and eye-opening, which is maybe a good reason to talk about what is this Path to Glory and how is it different from competitive Warhammer, and what are some of the surprising things that might have been noted in this journey. I guess to start with, I should say that I've been using my Hedonites, and I've mainly been using the whole experience as a vehicle to paint the ones that I haven't played with before or were kind of on the back burner, because I have a pretty ongoing quest to get the entire range done. So I can say that it's like 100%ed, and it's going well. But, as a result, I've been painting stuff like Slangor, small units of Myrmidesh, all the funky things. And I've been trying to just include these little units in the Path to Glory to kind of get a sense for them. So stuff comes out like the Shard Speaker or the Mesmerizing Mirror that might not make it into your competitive list really ever. And it's been like a lot of fun. But I've noted a couple things right off the bat, in the whole experience. One, more Hedonite specific, is that underpowered units and AOS Anvil of Apotheosis heroes, which are overcosted, definitely do make things harder, but it's kind of a fun challenge. And two, more Path to Glory specific, whether you're talking about the core rulebook or Thundia battle plans for this stuff, are that the battle plans for this stuff are crazy. Like the system itself is fun. You get to create like your Path to Glory battle roster and have certain units you can bring, and they get kind of cool or sometimes super powerful veteran abilities if they level up by surviving battles and doing stuff. But when you get to the actual mission to play the game, it's like all the stuff that you're used to in competitive Age of Sigmar, like all the finesse is just thrown out the window. It's like if you were thinking about like that term people sometimes throw around, or that like playing 4-dimensional chess for really complicated things, I think we're going like down a chess level in terms of dimension. Because
this is 2-dimensional chess, or maybe 1-dimensional chess.
I thought it was 1-dimensional chess, so I went to 2-dimensional chess immediately. But it's just like the normal chess without like the piece you can hold, which you see like a computer screen, like an old chess.
I got
computer,
you. Yeah.
Which is essentially the same game. So the metaphor broke down, but I digress. It's linear chess, because these missions, they don't use battle tactics, they don't use grand strategies, they really don't use objectives for the most part, in a lot of ways, and they don't use a lot of mysterious terrain. Generally, most of them have one piece of mysterious terrain per player. You get to put them down, and a lot of the missions that I have played, could be just straight victory points. It could be holding one specific point. It might be escaping off the edge of the map. But it's not like a lot of careful positioning back and forth based on the whole map in quite the same way as I think we're used to. So you can't really come from behind if you can't do those one things, or you get the raw deal, which segues into the other weird aspect of some of these missions, is despite the fact that they do end up being fun, which is probably the point, they can also sometimes be, and this is the key bit, not fun. Because which seems like a design failure. The not the one you want. And that's because a lot of them have a pretty strong chance for an extreme one-sided slant at the beginning of the game, almost like a set up your army, other guy picks it up, kind of 40k level. Sorry, 40k. Like they rolled a 4 up and got the first turn, kind of, bad moment. And there are a couple examples I'll give you guys just to sort of sketch this out for those who maybe haven't played it. There's one mission, from the core book, I think it's called The Watchtower, where one of the two parties gets to be defending a watchtower and others attacking them. The premise of this is you have to put half of your army around the watchtower, which is 6 inches from like an objective in the center, and the other half in reserve from one side of the board. And the other player gets to both set up his whole army in a semicircle around you, like I think like some fairly short distance away, and choose to take the first or second turn. So if there was a time for you to be alpha struck, is like you have to offer up half your army immediately. If they are doing it right or bringing the right army, that half is gone. Almost despite any action you can take, unless you just have the right combination of like for pre-game movement, screening units or whatever to create like a protective bubble or something like that. So that can be kind of like an immediate, like, oh, okay, interesting game kind of experience. I had a really fun game against our friend Nick here, brought some ogres, but it was essentially weather a first turn charge from a bunch of Stonehorns and, like guys who are going to have 3-inch charges and everything there.
Sure. I think I've played this mission actually, because for a little bit there, my friend Drew and I were playing a little Path to Glory right when the edition changed, right? And this is the new Path to Glory system where you've got your little roster sheet and your general, and he's getting specialty. You can take more artifacts and stuff than you normally would be able to, and that kind of thing.
Yep.
That's the special sauce. I remember playing that, and I guess he and I had played it at a very low points level, so it was like 600 points aside, right? At which point, like the fact that he was like literally up in my grill before turn 1 started didn't matter as much, because it was a bunch of ghouls versus a bunch of skinks.
Nice. Yeah, more proper scrum there. Yeah.
And then all my pterodon riders come in from the flank, and then and then they're they have they're able to make good progress to the and sort of charge in immediately on the turn that they arrive, because they get to deploy and then move and then charge. I think there's something ridiculous.
Yeah. When you come in from the side, it's like they kind of have the one side, and you have to come in within like a certain number of inches of it, and then you get to do your movement and all that. So if you have a fast unit, you can definitely come and intercede if there's something left to defend. And probably the only negative is if they decide to refuse flank you and just give you a big bubble, you're not going to get there.
Yeah. But I could definitely see if you're playing it slightly, because they don't really have good recommendations about where the points cutoffs are for these missions.
Yeah.
And so I think you could easily be playing this mission at 1,200 points or something like that, at which point you can have a much more potent alpha strike.
And that's actually exactly sort of where it's settled. I mean, barring like a lot of recommendations from, the Path to Glory battle plans or whatnot, and you get with the open-endedness of it, we'd started this league at 1,000 points. And so sort of organically grows as you're able to buy units and attach them to your barracks or strongholds or roll the right territories to be able to even get certain things beyond the sort of starting minimums, which are somewhat restrictive. You can get up to 1,200, 1,300 point games eventually. And then it's just big enough for like those things to start to be telling. I think that's fair, because then you can get the double Stonehorn charge or something like that, that really wipes you off the board. Yeah. Whereas maybe that wouldn't be available at the 500 point version, which actually did play out something like this. And another really fun one to highlight in this sort of theme of, oh, this is a tough mission if you don't roll the 4 up, which was another one from the Thondia book that we had a chance to try yesterday. Highlighting one of our favorite new models, the Incarnate of Gur. So this thing is basically, I think it's open the vault or something. You're opening the mystical vault, but the vault has a guardian. So think your 2 armies square off. They're facing the vaults on the opposite sides of the table, deploying on the narrow edge. Straightforward so far. But here comes the wrinkle. There is an Incarnate of Gur in wild form, starting at level 2, guarding this thing. and you do your kind of a roll off the priority roll, and you start the game normally that way. But at the beginning of the battle round, the players roll off, and they, based on who wins, get to control the incarnate. But because of how incarnates work, outside of extremely narrow circumstances, if you win that first roll off, you're generally going to be in auto charge range. You can just run that thing and charge because it flies 12 and can run and charge in wild form to get into your opponent's army. At which point, if you tag more than one unit, it will fight those things to the death. And either you've erased a substantial chunk of their army with an incarnate, or held them up in their deployment zone indefinitely, or both. And the thing will probably die, even, so it doesn't matter if it switches sides, because the next time the battle round comes up, let's say your opponent takes control, if you did, it's still fighting their troops, still considers them enemies, will still fight them to the death. It can do nothing with that. It can't retreat from its own fight. It's not allowed for the incarnate. It's stuck in combat, as is the other.
Yeah, it's that model. Oh,
yeah,
we're gonna have a whole show for that, people. A whole show.
We absolutely have much to speak of on that. So that's a preview right there. So looking forward to next week's episode, or 2 weeks from now's episode. But I will say, without going too much more into it, to kind of wrap up on that mission, in that 2 things happened. One, the incarnate flew in because I won the roll off, got the 4 up, and my opponent had a real fun experience watching probably a third of his models get destroyed by this thing on its own as I tagged like 4 units as I marched my army across the board to just grab the objective and sit on it. It became more of a game. Luckily, this is point 2, because there are a couple ways that this can skew away from just a one-sided experience. He had a brass orb, and he threw it at the thing and relocated it, back to my corner, which made it more of a game. But like, that's kind of an unusual artifact. Most of the time, if the incarnate's there, it's there to stay.
Yeah, and that's very army dependent. Any other army is not going to have that ability, right? So
exactly. So long story short, Path of Glory, lots of fun. Good to grow your guys organically, but sometimes, you just show up and the mission just hits you over the head with what's going to happen, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, it's I'm going down a history lane here, but I finally went back to get all the games of my youth. I got a PlayStation. And I got Shadow of the Horned Rat. If you guys remember that game, it's like the precursor to whatever the new
the Vermintide.
No, the other one, the big battle one that everybody plays.
Total War.
Yeah,
I
Total
remember
War.
this. I love that game. You're like the mercenary captain, and it's on PlayStation with bad grainy graphics. There's a million and one of every enemy unit whenever you fight a battle, and none of your guys come back when they die.
And the best soundtrack ever, by the way. If you ever get a chance, go and look it up. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. I may even link it on our YouTube channel. Get that person some extra listens. But that's how I envision Path to Glory should be, right? Is like just set up some scrums, a little bit of scrums. You get a little bit more, you get a little bit more, you get a little bit more. But I can see the incarnate just completely messing that up.
Oh, yeah. He's too strong for that forum. I mean, like, if your guys die at Path to Glory, there's a chance they do have the Shadow of the Horned Rat treatment, right? Where they end up like gone. Like the unit strength will go down by like 2 or 3, so you have like a crappy unit at full price. And then you maybe either delay to have a chance of getting them back, or like a dicey one to try to do it for some of your special resource glory points, after a battle. But you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to take this like 7 out of 10 unit of like skeletons or whatever I'm still paying full bore for, and I'm going to fight off a flying super magic demon.
Yeah, right.
That they got for free this turn.
That's always the interesting part of balancing a campaign, right? How do you give somebody the tools to fight back without making it just overpowered, right? So that's an interesting thing. I'm excited to see actually in branching out again in like Necromunda campaigns, and actually even the new Warcry campaigns, to see how they're working that.
Yeah,
but I feel like
I was looking at those new Warcry campaigns. They seem exciting. I'm interested in trying to get some people around here to, just try it out, see what's up. It's not like we don't have any models.
Yep,
kicking around.
I've got all the Warcry boxes and nobody to play Warcry with.
There you go.
I often convince myself to buy them based upon the terrain, which will sit on sprue for a while.
Oh, nice. There we go.
Terrain's so good though.
But speaking of the Total Warhammer, the one I've been trying to do with the one I was trying to do with Path to Glory was the that North Africa campaign for the Lizardmen from Total War 2. Did anybody play this? Maybe this is too niche of a reference.
I got Total War 2 from Steam when they had one of those bundles, and I played it for like maybe about an hour and was just like, this is so much. I just want to go beat people up. That's all I want to do.
I think I know the one you're talking about, Miles. And of course, I think I agree with you there too, Matt. Sometimes it's pretty overwhelming with that game. But yeah, it's like you're down like near Nehekara, but you're like in a little pocket of jungle, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, exactly. And you're sort of like the desert, the desert adjacent Seraphon, and you are or Lizardmen in the world that was, and you are a skink chief on Pterodon.
That's fun. That is honestly what's really neat about those games, is it lets you live out the fantasy of being that one character, building your bastion, doing your thing.
Right.
And the fact you can spend 50 hours in your computer beating up the rest of the old world and the new world is kind of cool when you combine the games.
Well, I've never once beaten this campaign, so I always get I get a decent chunk of desert under my belt, and then Nagash comes out of somewhere and absolutely annihilates me. Classic Nagash move. But
delightful.
Yeah, but I was trying to do that in my Path to Glory, so I had my Pterodon chief as my general, which had we ever scaled up to 1,000, 1,500 points, I would have been regretting so hard. Can you imagine having this like 80-point hero as your general that you have to choose forever?
Yeah, that is the limitation to the forum. I guess maybe one last point on that, which is fun, is it does let you trot out the lesser known heroes if you want to give them a story and try to grow them up. And it's a great spot for Anvil of Apotheosis heroes. I've had quite a bit of fun with one that I grew up for this, horribly overcosted. It's 160 points for a 5-inch move, 3-up save, normal mortal, like not good at fighting kind of sorcerer, who I gave a companion beast that can do maybe some mortals on a charge. But it's just been fun to like watch his story unfold, because the thing is bad stats, but always somehow does way more damage than it should. It's the old Chaos like champion model holding the book, who I named Abrax the Dancing Flame, and his companion, which is the little monkey model from the pirate set with the ogres, who is his companion, Sensuous Philip. Who the master is there, nobody knows, but the duo has done probably more damage than, sadly, many units of my army in some games.
Nobody knows, but we all know it's Sensuous Philip.
Yes, he's a star. Pretty mean looking with a knife handle clutched in his tail.
Nice. Yeah, there's so much possibility in those, and like in the Crusades or the way to play 40K, and it's nice to see that kind of like move over in general for a lot of people going over to playing Path to Glory or Crusades, or like we've got Necromunda and Horus Heresy now, because some of these books are getting brutal. The new books specifically, like Tzeentch. Tzeentch is going to be brutal.
The new Sigmar books. I was like, oh, what books are we talking about? Is there like a new Gotrek book I haven't heard about, or what's the?
The releases in general, right? Power creep is a thing, but
and there's so many of them coming out. There's Tzeentch is dropping, or if it has dropped, I don't know. I can't handle. Lumineth and Giants I saw are coming out this weekend. Does that sound right? Anybody want to fact check me?
Yep.
And then we get Ogres soon, Slaves of Darkness soon. Those new Slaves of Darkness. Whoa.
Yeah,
right.
I really want to hear all these insights, Matt, that you have about Tzeentch. Changes in the wind, of course, but I wanted to say one little thing about the new releases for Chaos, just to put it out there, because I got to keep dribbling at us, and it's like every single one of them is like the cover of a heavy metal album. I feel like that's like the new style.
It's wonderful. Yeah, and the new Tzeentch book is probably the most beautiful one. I don't
That's the
know
one
if you
with,
guys
like,
have seen it in person. Is
that the one with the Zangor? Yeah.
that cover is beautiful.
Great palette.
Yeah. But I feel like we're back in that era of second edition where they were just hitting us with books over and over and over, and we're just like trying to keep up. And the only constant right now seems to be a damn Krondspine, but in the competitive meta. Mm-hmm. But Tzeentch is looking interesting, and I gotta say, it's after going through the book, I've had probably about 4,000 point, 5,000 point Tzeentch army that I've been sitting on forever because of one reason, because it's so complicated. It actually provides an NPE for my opponent because they have to keep track of what I'm trying to keep track.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not the smartest guy, as we just talked about with the Total War game, right? I can barely keep track of that.
I remember playing against Matt Beasley with the with his Tzeentch last edition, and it would be like his first hero phase was going to be 35 minutes of him talking at the absolute fastest pace he could possibly muster, and you're just like, all right, you're just like white knuckling it on your side of the table. You're like, I don't fully know what's happening, but I'm going to pretend like I do because I don't want to be rude, and it's Matt and he's great, and I'm sure it's all fine and above board and everything, right? Like, but it was just like, holy crap, how do you even handle this?
Only because he's a wizard. It's magic. That's how his planes fly.
My one game against Matt versus his Tzeentch, I think, was in second edition, but was quite intense as well in that similar way.
Yeah, and that book really was a lot of bookkeeping, and then like the first one was a lot of bookkeeping. Then the second one, right, that came out, then had agendas, and it's like, okay, is that actually going to benefit me? And then only extreme high level players are going to be able to like get all of that and run through it, right? Well, the new book does away with all of that. You're finally like pushed away from having to do if this then that style of play for a lot of the stuff. Agendas are out. You get a free endless spell at the beginning of the game, essentially. Well, you have to pay for it, but you get it automatically summoned, which is amazing.
That's cool.
And you're not just like with all the other books, you're not like stuck with artifacts from your sub-allegiance. So like things are starting to look like, they're actually playable. And when I first saw, I got to say, when I first saw the War Scrolls for the interim box, how they always put out the two armies, and I saw the acolytes, I was so disappointed because I've been wanting to use them forever, and then they bumped them to a 6+ save in that box for like some unknown reason. Well, they bumped them right back to a 5-up.
Okay, so the ones in that box were just a red herring. Did I get that right? Okay, yeah. So they were just.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so they specifically made them worse for some reason. But now they're back to where they're actually pretty decent. You can Ren stack with the army almost to the level of like Beasts of Chaos if you really want to go that route. But one of the most amazing things, you can bring Zangor now, because you're not having to have a double folded War Scroll card with like all the rules even going on to the back and everything, because they've split the units to be offensive or defensive. You can either have one of all shields or one of all double weapons. And that means like you're not sitting there waiting for your opponent to get through, 40 different rolls, having to call out each one, having to follow it, having to see
God
what's
bless
going
Kirk
on.
for trying that. I mean, he did it for all of second edition, and it was never a fast move, but like, he got through it, and you were just like, but it was always one of those things where like, okay, this is going fine. Okay. Now I'm losing a little bit more than I'd like. Okay. And he's still going, and he's still rolling, and there's more attacks. Okay. And that was now the beaks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Morale breaking number of profiles.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And while well, like the army as a whole, I wouldn't say is like amazingly top tier or anything, right? It's got the potential to be by that same. It still has that same high skill level like use case where like Matt can probably take it and he's just gonna dominate, right? He did that with, I don't know, he can do that with any army, but
Sure.
but it also it completely reduced the barrier to entry. Like mortalists are viable now, maybe not as viable as demons, but you know, certain things have gone up, like the just this Angor Shaman having a 4+ save now is huge. It's a massive change to be able to bring something down to a 3 and up when you need it, right? You're not 50-50. And then like Zangor's is still at 5 and up, but there's so many ways to like get them back in. Now that like it's viable to actually do a mortal starting army. And the book has it's super tight. Like I don't know how to describe
for
it.
Everyone,
like,
for everyone at home, Matt's making a bunch of funny hand motions. He's trying to like.
I've turned Italian for a second.
Yeah.
He's captured tightness with his hands.
Yeah. So like when looking through this, like the major changes to me are that they really just want you to buy spawn models. That's really it.
Well, of course, and you know, no one else
angle.
champions the spawn like Tzeentch. Well, in Beast of Chaos, they have that one spawn lover.
Yeah, Gabe spawn
faction.
But like Chaos spawns now, if you get just a forewarning for anybody who's going up against the new book, if you get stuck with a bunch of Chaos spawn in your face, it's going to hurt. They're throwing mortals now. That's insane.
Ooh,
Chaos
wait a
spawn throwing
second.
mortals.
Is this part of a devious plan on Games Workshop's part to clear out all the back stock of Chaos Spawn inventory for the last like 6 years since they made the last sculpt, or 20 or whatever it was, before they make a new sculpt?
It's a dual
I
plans
hope
within
so.
plans?
The new
You
sculpt
can make-
comes out with Beast of Chaos. Why yes. But yeah,
I don't mean it's a dual kit of Chaos Spawn. You mean you get 2 in a box?
Yeah.
well, technically you get like 5 in a box with all the extra options.
Yeah,
if you
sure.
just glue it onto a piece of putty.
It's a bring your own base option.
But yeah, outside of that, like the battle tactics are all actually achievable. That was one thing that I noticed playing my armies, or the couple of games that I've had with them, is like Tzeentch is like super strong on the start of the game, but towards the end, if you just can't rack up enough summoning points, you're kind of screwed, right? So you'd have to steamroll through right away, unless it's like, I don't know, a crazy map build castle.
Sure.
But like now, those are actually achievable, helping you in certain situations where your Tzeentch is just going to be shut out with the older book in 3.0.1 or 2, whatever we want to call the second GHV now. And
3.0.1.2, obviously.
Yeah, there we go. And
good old
grand
software
strategies. They seem to keep going on with these grand strategies that are just attainable by everybody. So I guess that's good.
That's mean.
Tough.
But yeah, I'd say the coolest thing though, the one thing that got me excited was my chariots have a 4 and up save now instead of a 5. Like that's huge.
Ooh, nice.
That's so massive, right?
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Question: do they still have Destiny dice? Still a thing?
Yes, they do, and they have even more reliable ways to get Destiny dice back.
They're even more Destiny.
Destiny.
Nice.
Which, I mean, everybody hates on it, but like, imagine that army without Destiny dice.
Oh, it wouldn't feel the same. Not anymore. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
The Architect of Fate's got to have something going on, right?
Yeah, and the fact that it's inherently random from the beginning of the game. I know there are certain games where I've only rolled 1s, 2s, and 3s, and that was, I think, after the FAQ that you can't bring back all your horrors or whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
one.
so the ones are.
And so it's like,
less
well,
fun.
cool. Yeah, I passed the battle shock that I was already going to pass because I have bravery 10. Whoopsie. I really, and I'm kind of piggybacking off of this. Like, I really hope that out of all the books that come out after this, that ogres get this same treatment, because they are the book that I really want to see that kind of like just solid writing for.
I would second that. I have a whole ogre army and a lot more ogres I could build or paint given the right motivation. And it would be a lot of fun to give them their day in the sun.
Yeah, just a couple save increases here, little points drops there, maybe an extra rend here, just it's amazing.
The mighty arrest is the righty arrest.
Yes.
And whatever we're on now, they keep upping the suffixes.
Yeah, mighty, the ante is high on that one now.
Mighty righty. But yeah.
Lefty loosey, yeah. That's the new ogre one, is mighty righty lefty loosey.
Like, they give them like a lot of power, but as a weird new rule, we have to designate whether they're right-handed, left-handed. I can only turn that direction, kind of like a Zoolander limitation.
Yeah, you can only turn right. If you turn left, you lose all your buffs.
Right.
You got this army that's just driving one-way lane to get down to where it needs to go.
Rightiest is mightiest. Oh my god.
But very solid book. I hope to see a lot more of it. Apparently, like, I don't know if you guys saw the Warhammer community article where like Tzeentch is still like doing really well, apparently, in the queue of armies that are winning. I'm completely baffled by that, and I really want to go and look at the actual rules that they're probably abusing to get to that point.
I mean, I saw it. I don't know. I really liked that MetaWatch article they put out with the video with the whatever his name, the new game designer, the new Jarvis, right? New Jarvis,
James Workshop.
No. I
know.
I love the James Workshop video.
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
I want one of those for the Krondspine.
Yeah. But I really thought he had a good sort of data-driven approach to thinking about this game, and sort of had the right levels of, how to think about the windows of what's the timeline we're looking at to make these changes, and all that sort of made a lot of sense to me. So that was very exciting. But yeah, I wonder if something like Tzeentch is much like the Sons of Behemoth, a game, an army that doesn't win as much as it doesn't lose, right? Because either you can get through 30 pink horrors, or you can't get through 30 pink horrors.
Yeah, and with the changes to Be'lakor, I could see the horrors just coming back in Tzeentch only, right? So
yeah,
but
that'd be interesting if horrors became spiteful in Be'lakor, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
whatever that's called.
Yeah, we'll see how that affects everything. I'm sure the new Slaves to Darkness book is going to make a lot of things very interesting. But the one thing I was excited about that article was it was showing Beasts of Chaos win rate at the top, right?
Oh yeah.
And that gives me hope, because the new War Scrolls for all of the Zangor stuff is so brutal. It's the most brutal in a Beast of Chaos list. You do not want to fight them at all. So that gives me hope. If anything, outside of like wanting to play Tzeentch, I can now happily know that my Beasts of Chaos are going to be nerfed into the ground so that I can play them again and not feel bad.
That's true. I mean, like, they're uncomfortably good right now. It's probably a real turnoff.
Well, I mean, like I said, just it out of anything out of that book, regardless of how good Tzeentch is now, they made the changes to Skyfires alone, where they're avoiding any
negative
any
penalty,
save
right?
benefits. Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah.
So like best day ever plus Mystic Shield, all of that is gone for them. They're hurting Archaon. Archaon has a 4-and-up save against them.
You see, this makes it seem to me like there's gonna come a reckoning, maybe for BCCast because of these new assets, but probably not before they just sweep a bunch of tournaments if they're able to take advantage of these things in that interim period.
Yeah, it's kind of like what do we have, the 2-week FAQ window.
Mhm.
I really hope that they drop some points changes on BC Chaos before then, because nobody needs to see them over nerf like Slanesh.
I did hear about one other interesting potential fact, from that from that book. Full credit, heard about it on the Honest Wargamer. Actually, they were chatting about this potential. But
Jack, we don't promote other people's podcasts on this show.
You're right. An unnamed, also stats heavy podcast that may or may not have been a direct inspiration for the MetaWatch article, but apparently there's a way to create an immortal lunch for a Krondspine.
Immortal lunch.
Yeah, because apparently if you make that endless spell that you get for free that can't be dispelled at the beginning, kind of float around, and it gets eaten, it doesn't go away. At least right now.
So we're definitely going to have to do a Krondspine episode, because I know I'm going to have to see that in this local meta. Oh, it's going to drive me nuts.
Right. Hot preview for things to be talked about on the All About Krondspine episode.
Nice. And we'll have that for you guys.
Why?
We'll have that for you guys next time. In the meantime, while you're waiting around, you can follow us at Strikes Last on Twitter. We got a new Twitter handle. We got a YouTube channel up and running. Matt's been putting some hard work into there. And so check us out there. What else we got going on?
Well, if people love the channel and want to buy cool merchandise to promote the channel to the wider world, to people who may not yet have heard the good word, they can find that on Redbubble, looking up Always Strikes Last or Matt's handle of Derptown.
Yep. And we'll start linking those in the YouTube area. One of the other cool things that we do is, or at least we're going to start doing for local GTs around here, is list breakdowns. So we're going to host quite a bit of other clubs from the area, some really like high level hitters, and we just go through the lists on the GT and kind of like figure out, hey, what makes this work? And it's a lot of fun to kind of like learn, because these guys are amazing players, but also like to get ideas. One of the cool things is seeing the variation, or Krondspine, and seeing how you can tinker with your lists, because list building is about 1/4 of most of ours days, right? So
a deep commitment on par would work.
That's right. So yeah,
sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for joining. And if you don't strikes first, you strikes last. I don't know,
which is preferable.
Yes,
that's winning.
You strikes when you strikes, but you do it last.
God, I had one. It was don't strike out, strike last.
Don't strike out, strike last. That should be a t-shirt.
There we go.
Delivery though. Oh God.